Hello and welcome to this tutorial on the Allen & Heath ME1 personal mixers in use here at Creekside Church. So you'll see in the video right there we have the personal mixer, and all these personal mixers in both the west side and the gym are plugged in via Cat5 cabling. So you see the Cat5 cable right there, plugs into the back into link in. The way these work is they get their power over the Cat5 cabling, so there is no other cable that needs to be attached. Since they're powered via the Cat5, you don't need an extra power cable. Now, all of these personal mixers have their own Cat5 cable coming from a unit up in our rack there that actually sends out the signal for them. If you want to link two of these units together, you can plug another Cat5 cable in on the back into where it says link out into the link in on another ME1 unit. But at that point, you do need to get a power cable because it can't carry the power between linked units like that. Also on the back there's a couple other connections. There's your headphone connection, which you can plug in a regular 1/4" cable such as here, or a headphone jack cable into the output there. There's also a mono output. My suggestion would be to continue to use the stereo output on it. You'll get a much better signal that way. On the front of the personal mixer you'll see 16 buttons. Those 16 buttons can represent an input or a group of inputs. We'll get to exactly what that means in a few minutes, but those 16 buttons are your selector buttons for that group or that input. Up at the top you'll see a local knob, and then you also see a master level knob, and another knob which is kind of your universal encoder. There's a couple more buttons on here that we will get to as we move along as well. That'll help us just control everything on the personal mixer. So from a real basic standpoint here, with your 16 buttons, you have channels being sent from the mixer that are being sent to these different buttons. So if you push on one of the buttons, the name will come up. So right now it says Vox 3. So the way that this personal mixer has been configured is that button 1 is Vox 3 from the board. Now the person mixing at the board, when they get in, they'll usually name all the channels. So Vox 3 and Vox 2 and Vox 1, as you can see on the channel there, will actually be the name of the singers. So as soon as they name them on the console, they'll also get named here on the personal mixer. So when you come in, there's kind of a default setup that we kind of leave on these here. If you go across, you'll see how there's labels here, Vox 1 through 3. We also have our kick, our snare, our drums, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, bass, keys, click, room, and talkback. Now those can change though. Somebody else can come in and do something different. What's great about these personal mixers is that each musician can actually have their own layout of how they want these things set up. Again, normally we just set them up and we let you guys use them how they're used, but if you wanted to, you could come up and completely set it up completely differently for yourself. So to assign a channel, normally when you come in for your practice on Tuesday night, things are kind of preset here. But sometimes another musician will be added, or it's a musician that we don't have every week, so we don't have a button already set up for that. So you're going to need to add that person in. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to hold down the shift button and push the group button. That brings up our menu. Now we can use our universal rotary knob here to scroll down to where it says key setup. And when we get the key setup, push in on the rotary knob and it'll say press a key. What this is asking you to do is press any of the 16 keys here. As soon as you press that key, all the information that comes up on the screen is the information for that particular key. So I've pressed key 1, and what this is telling me is that the source is number 5 and the name is Vox 3. Source, the number there, is somewhat relative only to where everything is set up on the console. So just because it says 5 doesn't mean it's necessarily input 5 on the stage snake or anything like that. But you will see the name there. But if you want to go in now and you want to say, okay, I want something different in here, where it says source, push in, and now right there you'll have the entire list of all the different sources that you can use on the personal mixer. So you can scroll down and find them all. As you see, the bottom ones are unused. We have 40 channels we can send to this from the soundboard, and we just don't have 40 channels in this room yet. So if I wanted to send, say, the electric to there, so it says electric, select it there with my rotary knob and push in. And now source is 12, which is the name is electric, and it's all ready to go. By pushing the master key, I can get back to my main screen. Now if I wanted to do a couple of different ones, what I could do is go back into there as before, hold down shift, press group, go to key setup, push a key, and I can go in here and I can say, okay, I want to go to talkback. I want to put TB in here. Push that in there. Before coming out, I can actually go back into another key now. As I press keys, it'll change on there. So I don't have to go all the way out and come back in every time. Once we get our unit set up the way that we want it, every channel is where we want it to be. Now it's just controlling it while we're playing. So the band will usually do a sound check, and that's where we go through, pick the instrument that you're looking at or the vocal that you're listening to, click on it, and now with the rotary knob there, you can turn your volume up and down. You can see on the screen there's a visual representation of that input being turned up or down. So you can actually go through and see how loud or quiet all your different inputs are as you're mixing. There's also a master level on here. My suggestion is, with the master level, to keep it up around the 1 or 2 o'clock mark. That's a little over halfway. That gives you lots of headroom. As you'll see, the person who was using this one, they have their vocal 1 really high up, but their master level was too far down. So if you move the master level up a bit, that takes everything up a little bit, and you can actually have a little bit more headroom. Turn everything down a little bit and have some more headroom to work with things. Once you get your mix set, what you're going to need to do is save everything. So to save something on here, again, hold down the Shift key and now press Recall. When you get there, it'll say press a key. The 16 buttons on here actually represent 16 different saved settings we can have on these. So just go and press a key. So I'm going to press 1. Right here, what it's going to say is preset 1 or edit. That's just a preset name that we can select for it, or we can go into it and say edit. When we push on edit, we can go in here now and name it. So clear preset is what's highlighted. So if we turn the rotary knob now, as we turn the rotary knob, you will see that there's a cursor down there that we can move along. So as we move it along the space, so the first space, and push in, we can now select the letter or number that we want right there. My suggestion is to label your preset as the date of the performance or service that you were doing. So if you're here on a Tuesday night, and let's say it's February 2nd when you're here, but the service is on February 7th, I would put February 7th as your date. That way, the next person who comes in, when they're looking through presets, they won't save over it because they know that we haven't passed February 7th yet. So we go in here, I'll turn the rotary knob, we get to F, over 1, and you just go through, and on each, so you just go through, and on each letter here, you just scroll through until you get to the date that you want. Once you're done with that, and your name is the way that you want it, push master once. Master is like a back button, so by pushing it once, we've gotten back to the edit menu here. It says February 1st. Now it says press again to store. This is where it can get confusing, but push the preset number button again to store. I've done it before where people will press master again because that's the last button that we pushed. What that just does is take you back again, and now you just lost your save. So push 1 again, it'll save it, and now it comes back up. So now Sunday morning comes up and we want to recall it. So this time the recall button, hold that down, it'll say press any key. So press 1, it shows us the name. It says press again to recall, so push it again. Now it's recalled, so now our settings are the same as when we saved them before. There are also ways to set up groups on here. So you'll notice if you go down to the drums setting, it just says drums. As you know, we have quite a number of channels on the drum kit. We actually have 8 total channels. We dedicate 1 to our kick drum, which I actually accidentally relabeled talkback on here, and snare. But the drums channel is actually a group. So if you go in, if you notice when we push the drums, the group button highlights now. If we push that button, you'll see that now we have control over all the individual drums there. So if I move my rotary knob up and down, I can get to all the other drums and turn them up or down as well. So if I push in with the rotary knob while floor tom is highlighted, I can now turn the floor tom up or down. So rather than actually just having 16 channels, since we have the group, we can actually put way more channels into these personal mixers and have a lot more control over our mix that we hear in our ears. Once we're done editing that group, we just press the group button again, and we're back to our normal screen on here. To set up a group on a key, hold down the Shift key and push group. This will take us back to our key setup menu, so highlight key setup and push in. Now we have to select the key that we want to put the group in. So I'm just going to select key number 8 for now, just as an example. It's unassigned. So it says unassigned. push on source, and you'll notice that the second one in there says group. So I'll push group. If we scroll down now with the rotary knob, we can get to where it says name. Right now it's named group 8. We can name that custom. Let's highlight that. And we can go in and we can change this name now to whatever we want, just as we named the file before. I won't waste time right now going through and doing that, but that's just how we do that. So group 8 is our name. Source is group. Now members. Members, it says none. Members is what are the members of this group. So if we push in members, we get everything that we can put into a group here. It's all the same channels as we had before. You'll notice that some of these are not highlighted right now. We can't put those in because those are already assigned to another group. So you can't put something in 2 different groups. But anything that's not already assigned to a group, we can go through right now and put into this group. So just click on them, and as you go, they'll highlight them. You can just populate this group as you go along. I'm going to unhighlight them for now so that we don't mess up this personal mixer, but push the master button to get back out of there, and that group would be set up. Now, one more thing that we can do as well is we can also save our settings to a USB key. So if you just worry that someone's going to change these settings on you during the week or something, even though you've saved them, you can also save it to a USB key. So take the USB key and plug it into the USB slot on the back of the mixer. And I'm just going to take the settings I have right here and I'm going to save them. So again, shift and recall will bring up our save function. And you'll notice before when we did this, it said press any key. Now it says to USB. We can still save this just to one of the keys here, and we can just push one of the keys and save it like we did before. But right now I'm going to save it to the USB. So with to USB highlighted, I push on it. Now it says press again to store or edit name. So if we highlight edit name, we can go in here and we can change it. I'm just going to leave it as February 1st, but we could change it like we did before. Press the master button once, and it says once again, press again to store. This is where we have to have to USB highlighted, and we'll press there to store. So now if we want to recall the USB settings, we recall, and you'll see up in the top corner there's a name right there. If you have multiple files saved on the USB key, you'll see a whole list and you could scroll through them. Right now this is the only one. So we'll push in, it says press again to recall, so we'll push in again on our rotary knob, and now February 1st is the one that has been recalled from the USB key. One of the problems that does happen on these personal mixers is that you can't save something on a certain key. It says it's locked, or it says it says recall only. So if I'm going to press shift and group again and press key setup and just press a key. Notice at the bottom it says preset, it says store recall. What that means is that button number 1, we can store stuff on it and we can recall. If we go along there, you'll see that button number 3 though says store lock. It means you can't store something to that key. If we go along, you'll say recall only. It means you can only recall. So store lock means you can't do anything with that key anymore. Someone has saved that one in such a way that you can't do anything with it. And button number 5 is recall only. I prefer to have these mixers set up though, so that they are all of them are store and recall. So if we highlight preset and click on it, we can actually change between recall only and store recall. So we're going to go in there and we're going to say, let's keep this as store recall. So if you ever run the personal mixer and you find you can't save on a couple of the buttons, you can go back into your key setup here and just change that key to store recall so that you can save and store on all of them. So that's the ME1 personal mixer that we use here at Creekside. Thank you.